everyone, and welcome to Kentico Xperience Connection 2022. Now, let me send a special thanks to all our sponsors, including Blue Modus and Ray Business Technologies as platinum sponsors, AmericanEagle.com and BizStream as gold sponsors, and ThunderTech as a silver sponsor.
Hello and welcome to Kentico Xperience Connections 2022. My name is Dominic Pinter and I'm Managing Director at Kentico Xperience. And it is my true honor to welcome you from here, our headquarters in Brno, Czech Republic. An event like this wouldn't be possible without our sponsors. So I would like to thank to all the sponsors, especially our platinum sponsors, Blue Modus and Ray Biztech.
Kentico Xperience Connection 2022 Thursday live stream session. This session is the panel discussion with our wonderful guests. The topic of today's discussion is digital experience maturity, how to assess it, how to grow it, why it's important, and actually what our wonderful guests actually think about digital experience maturity, what are their experience. Let me introduce my today's guests. First, Dave Conder, Chief Technology Officer at Blue Modus. Welcome, Dave. Eugene Paden, Chief Technology Officer at Ray Business Technologies. Welcome, Eugene. Wes McChristian, Global Kentico Xperience Practice Director at AmericanEagle.com. Welcome, Wes. Arlene Goldberg, Director of E-Commerce at SHI. Welcome, Arlene. And last but not least, Dominic Pinter, Managing Director at Kentico Xperience. Hello, Dominic. Digital experience maturity refers to a level of sophistication in measuring and delivering digital customer experiences across different touchpoints. We can also call it, let's say, digital sophistication. We already used that term during today, if you want. It tells you how successful you are in adoption of different digital marketing, digital commerce, and digital customer experience tools. It can be measured on the company level, department level, or even on the personal level. So what's your personal digital experience maturity? What's your company digital experience maturity? It's all interconnected. In today's world of rapid digital transformation, growing digital experience maturity is said to be crucial for your survival. It's a key element of business change, of business success. What is your personal experience with this concept? And how important is it for you, your companies, and your businesses nowadays? Eugene, what's your experience nowadays with digital experience maturity?
I would start with, as a customer, I actually experience products more first on the digital space rather than in the physical space. So most of the time, as customers, that's the first touch point that we get. It's not going to a store and holding the product. It's not. You experience it. Maybe you see an ad, or you see a reference, or you see an article, you read it, and then eventually maybe you want to interact with the product, or you buy the product. So from my personal experience, I actually buy more online than maybe on the physical side. Even when you're looking for a house, and it's big now, like how house prices have gone up here in the US, you do first online. That's your first experience before you go and visit the house. That's what you get. Now, how does it get there? You have to look at it. If you were the ones offering those services, how do you do that? How do you make that happen? It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a team, it takes a vision to say, this is the experience that we're trying to make. And since we're creating, it's part of digital transformation, evolving or jump-starting the experience of customers on many levels and different touch points. And that's what sometimes we miss. We just think of ourselves, but we don't really think of what is the customer looking for. And that's why you have disruptive technologies that come in. And most of the disruption that happens, it's all in the digital space, because that's how fast you can work, you can move. You have companies that are 6 months, 3 months old, and they can disrupt just 100-year-old companies. You've seen that so many times. And it's just basically starts with a vision. What would you like? Because most of the time now, it will be on the digital space that people will experience your product or service.
Eugene, let's continue.
So let me go back and I can feel for Arlene because the vision is very important. Everything starts with a vision. And normally the vision comes from top management because they want to drive business value out of the vision. There's two things I've seen when the visions are created. One, it's that there's a real need for them to serve from the founders or the management team to say, I want to serve my customers with a new product or experience or service, and this is my vision. And then there's another way that the vision is created by fear of missing out. My competitor is doing this. I have to do this myself. That's the scariest one because you don't know where it's coming from. It's not driven by a real need for you to serve your customers. Now, once and Dave is right, it starts with one person, but it's really hazy. Most of the time sometimes when customers come to us, I want this done. And we said, what does it mean? They can really explain it. And that starts same thing also with the vision. It's hazy at first. So normally, and I've gone through this one, I've created the product out of a vision of our CEO and basically took it from there. And you have an innovation team. You thresh out the details of vision. Is it really what you want? Because then you're asking for investments. You're not going to get your investments. You're not going to get your money unless you clarify that vision and what is going to be the return. And those are very important things that you have to go through. Once you have clarified that, you will have your sponsorship. Then you will say, because you have to work, as Arlene was saying, is it going to be an IT team that's going to support me? Is it going to be a marketing team that's going to support in executing that vision? Basically, it's not going to be support. You are all together. You are part of the team. It's not going to be there's an IT team, there's a marketing team, there's a customer service team. They might be the silos, but those silos, especially for larger organizations, those are so hard to break. So sometimes it's easier to just create a new, an innovation team within that are composed of teams that are with different disciplines. You have technology, you have teams that are experts in the technology side, on the marketing side, on the sales side, distribution side, anything that is needed to make that vision happen. Once you have that, you can all do it as yourself. As Dave was saying, there are people who have done bits and pieces of that. You cannot build it yourself. You can learn from them. You have to reach out to partners. You have to reach out best of breed across all the different things that you needed to do. They might be on the technology side, they might be on the execution side, but those are things that you have to reach out so that by the time that you do it, you don't have to take so much time. You have just look at the best examples of how things were done. And then the culture has to be there within the team, because if the team doesn't have the right culture to be able to do that, we're here, we have the sponsorship, we're given the green light. How do we make this happen? Sometimes we lose out on, we're scared to do things. We're scared to make mistakes because the spotlight is on us. But again, sometimes the spotlight is on you and you're the ones who are going to make it happen. And just have to believe in yourself that I'm not doing it alone. I work with partners. There's so many partners that you can work with. You can work with mentors. That's the beauty of it now. It's all accessible. You just have to reach out, right? And with that, you'll be able to fulfill and make your vision happen.
Thanks a lot, Eugene. And I would like to really point to one part of what you said, and this is the fear of missing out. If you would walk out from the panel discussion with one takeaway, this is probably one of the most important one, that fear of missing one, because if you're competitors, that's not the right vision. That's not the right thing, how to decide about where you go. It should be data, it should be understanding your customers. So I really love that. Thank you, Dave. And let's continue the momentum of the discussion with Eugene.
So you have to have a compelling vision first, because you have to sell that vision to the people that are going to work on it. Because if you don't have a vision that people would buy into, it's just work, right? And if you have a really clear vision of how you're serving your customers, how you're making people want to work on your project or want to work on that, on that enterprise that you would like to do, that already starts it. Everyone wants to start to be part of the team to make a difference. And taking off from what Dave was saying is that you have to have successes in between, because it cannot be like a 2-year project and then see the result after 2 years come back. That's why we have the agile methodology now, where in every step of the way you have measures and you can see results sooner, and you'll get support. imagine your CEO or your top management is giving support for you from the financial side and even moral side, and even having other team members in other or areas in your organization and say, hey, help these guys. If they're not seeing results, the other teams will just say, hey, I've been helping them, I don't see anything, I don't see any progress. And that gets the team down. If somebody is just saying, I don't want to help them, it's like, nothing, I'm not seeing anything. That's why you have to have very clear things. And this maturity model helps a lot, because then these are not all in that you have to buy into and say, hey, I want to see everything. Right? You can do it piecemeal. Get your feet wet. Especially if you don't have the expertise, for if you the resources that you have doesn't have the expertise yet, you have to build the experience to be able to do that. Gain your confidence. Baby steps. Right? When we see babies having first steps, we're so proud of them. You want to see that. And then the more we ask them to run, but you cannot run unless you take your first steps first and make that happen.
I was able to say this. Yeah, that was nice connected with the COVID question. Yeah, the most famous question of the COVID situation. Eugene, let's continue.
Yeah, I guess the first reaction is that don't panic, because most of the time that's it's something new. It's totally, as you guys are saying, it's a black swan event. It hasn't happened before, that when we're still alive, when we were here, so we don't know. And if you panic, that's when you make really bad decisions. And that's where we have to say, once you take stock, look around, look at the environment, and then take care of the most important people first. Look at your baby steps. We're saying, right? Baby steps. How are your clients? How are they? Are they okay? Can you interact with them? Do they need help? Any support that you can give? After that one, at the same level, look at your employees, because then they will be the ones who are going to be affected most also. More than, on top of your customers, you have to take care of your employees. How will they be able to work? Once they get affected physically, and their families also, it extends to their families. How is your organization going to react to the effects of COVID-19 when it hits your team members? And those are things that are really unknown. We don't know. And those are the things that we have to take baby steps. Just be there for them. Be sure that it's part of the whole experience. Working, your clients, your employees, those are your internal customers. So those are the ones who have to work with and say, hey, we are here. We're still here. It's a disruption that we haven't anticipated. And for some, it was tougher to work, especially for a team that is remote. They don't know how to start doing it. And people are still trying to figure out how we move forward. The good thing that we have seen is that decisions, especially major decisions that they wouldn't have done before, people are making those decisions faster now. They were saying, we cannot wait for this to happen. We have to be more agile. We are looking at tools to be able to say, that's why Zoom must become the value of Zoom. I don't know how much value has it grown, and they've been struggling for a long time, right? They just made so much, and that's true for all the others that made remote work a reality. And now we've seen that it's remote work is something that is taken as normal for some. We still want to be in the office for some, but it just changes a lot.
Thanks, Eugene.
I actually have a cheat sheet here. It starts with leadership. So there's several components of the leadership that has to be there. One is the vision, the strategy to make it happen, and then the urgency. If you don't have urgency, you just have a vision. It's like, if you don't have the urgency, it's not gonna happen. We've seen also we're in different areas of management, especially the ones under the CEO, they are not aligned. So it becomes like fiefdoms. We're in, this is marketing, this is IT. Hey, you guys have to work together. It's like, oh, it's not my KPI. They don't know. There are also no clear KPIs. So as Dave was saying, what's the business value? What are we measuring here? How do we measure our ROI? If they are not very clear at the start, then you're not going anywhere. And then, as Wes was saying, how do you do the change management? What's the incentive for the people to make this happen? There's a lack of incentive for the teams to do and make these changes. Hey, you're asking us to adopt all of these tools, which we don't know how to do, and these are all new, and I don't know how I'm gonna do. I just stay and do the same things again and again. But then management also just expects employees to adapt. This is part of what Wes was saying. Hey, I told you to do this, just do it. Yeah, that's where the vision is really missing there, and the clarity of how it should be done. And that's where the engagement of employees is very, very minimal. And then people will be averse to risks. They don't want to take the risks. It jeopardizes my career, or that's not really my job. I don't want to do it. There's a resistance to change. And then especially when we introduce all of these tools, the alignment of the technology and the talent that we have. So this is the challenge always, do we have the talent to be able to adopt all of these new technologies, or do we bring in somebody from the outside? And you bring in somebody from the outside, it also creates friction in one way in how you bring that in. So it becomes a balancing act. How do you make it work together? And that's why, again, the leadership and the vision and the clarity of that, wherein people buy into what you're trying to do, makes a lot of things easier, because then the things that are going to happen, it's just going to happen. And the last one I would say is that people tend to look at tools first before working on the culture. Culture and people are the ones who are going to make it happen. And then the tools are just going to come in, because these are the things that we need to do. Then the tools are going to come in. We've seen it wherein we bring in somebody from the outside, they come in and then they just disrupt everything because they have their own tools that they want to use. They don't want to use your tools. In my previous company, we've used this one. I know what works. We'll do this one, right? We've seen that too many times, and then it becomes disruptive and nothing happens for you. But where we've seen that success has been happening, it's just clarity of vision. When people are working on the same goals together, there's the morale that says you're doing something that is significant, not only for the company, maybe in society. You're fulfilling a mission in your organization to make a difference. That's where you become successful, and everything else follows from that.
Excellent, great discussion. So I would like to thank my guests today for that. Dave Conder, Chief Technology Officer at Blue Modus. Thank you, Dave. Eugene Paden, Chief Technology Officer at Ray Business Technologies. Thank you, Eugene. Wes McChristian, Global Kentico Experience Practice Director at AmericanEagle.com. Thank you, Wes. Arlene Goldberg, Director of E-Commerce at SHI. Thank you, Arlene. And Dominic Pinter, Managing Director here at Kentico Xperience.